Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne, and this is episode 131. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to click like, follow, or subscribe on the platform you're listening to us on. You can also check out my work at the loudest.com on the planet, knac.com, for exclusive interviews, live show coverage, and more. My guests for this episode are guitarist Michael Thompson, vocalist Moon Calhoun, and bassist Tom Croucier of the Michael Thompson Band. The Michael Thompson Band recently released The Love Goes On through Frontiers Music. It's sort of a reunion for Michael and Moon. Moon appearing on the Michael Thompson Band's 1989 star-studded affair, How Long? I was a little unprepared for this interview in the sense that I thought I was just interviewing Michael Thompson, but he brought along Moon and Tom, and I was a bit unfamiliar with their backgrounds. They touch upon that a little bit in the interview, but I just wanted to point out kind of where they came from and their music lineage. Moon Calhoun's not just a vocalist, he's also a drummer. He played for several bands in the 1970s up to the 80s. He played in the Gap Band. He played for Leon Russell. He played with Brett Walker. In addition to being a drummer and a vocalist, he's a prolific songwriter, not just writing with Tom Croucier for the Michael Thompson Band, but he's also written for Jeff Parris, Lita Ford, Y&T, and many others. Tom Croucier is not only the brother of Rat bassist Juan Croucier, he is also a prolific songwriter of his own and vocalist. Tom sang vocals with Life by Night on their 1985 album of the same name. Life by Night recently reunited for the release of their 2021 album, Glass Walls, through Escape Music. I was unfamiliar with Life by Night before speaking with Tom, and I went back and listened to the catalog, and it's sort of that perfect 80s soundtrack music, sort of like Thompson Twins meets Cutting Crew meets Simple Minds. Fantastic stuff. He's also performed on albums by Air Pavilion, Vanilla Fudge, and others. And of course, he played on the Scorpions' hit album, Blackout. As for guitarist Michael Thompson, he's played with a who's who of musicians that have been in the top 10 of American pop and rock and R&B throughout the 80s and 90s, including Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, NSYNC, Toni Braxton, Phil Collins, Rod Stewart, Scorpions, Vince Neil, Christina Aguilera, Michael Bolton, Mariah Carey, Madonna. You get the picture. Together, Michael, Moon, and Tom have crafted this fantastic new album, The Love Goes On. And here they are to tell you more about it. If I knew absolutely nothing about the Michael Thompson Band, how would you describe the music to me?
Melodic rock, which is not that different than pop music. It's like pop music with rock guitars and rock drums. We're into hooks and good songs, which to me, I mean, my whole career has been playing on other people's records and hit records and stuff. And so it's always been about the song and about the hooks. And so that whole melodic rock genre is, to me, it's like pop music. The successful stuff is because it's a hooky, good pop tune that has rock, sensibility, drums and guitars. And we know what rock is.
Certainly coming up in the time that you came up in, they didn't have the term melodic rock and they didn't have the term AOR. It was just pop rock music.
Right, it was. And then hard rock became heavy metal, but it was all just rock. And, we grew up listening. We had a lot of fun making this record and the records we've made because we've gotten to use the back when we were young and impressionable teenagers. I mean, I grew up in New York and I was going to the Fillmore East and seeing my idols play. It was new and it was fresh. And I'm seeing Jeff Beck group with Rod Stewart, on their first tour. and Led Zeppelin's first tour and stuff. And that was like a really exciting time to grow up, especially music wise. I mean, I wouldn't have traded that for anything. I mean, it makes me an old man now, but I wouldn't have traded it for anything. And I think we all had similar experiences. So when we went to make a rock record, I know from my own point of view, it's like sort of like a fantasy that you still had from a teenager where you wanted to be, you know, in a band that was making records, playing rock.
So you got the new album. It came out on May 12th. The Love Goes On, Frontiers Music. First thing we should probably talk about is that this is the return of Moon Calhoun on vocals. It's been a little while since you guys worked together. So how'd you get back in the fold?
You tell it.
35 years.
Was it that?
Yeah, well, 1988 is when that album came out.
Yeah, the first MTV.
Moon and I have been friends the whole time, leading up to making the record that we released on Geffen. How Long? We had an actual band that was gigging around town. We called it Slang. And, you know, we were playing at the clubs and trying to get record labels to come down, trying to get a record deal, cutting demos at my friend's studio. And, yeah, everything had eluded us. And then we got this manager guy named Alan Niven who became Guns N' Roses manager. And after years of trying to get a record deal, all of a sudden we had two deals in 1 week. He's like, he was an English guy. He's like, well, I've got Atlantic and I've got Geffen. Which one would you prefer? And we're like, holy shit, man.
Yeah, right.
You know, we've been trying to like figure out what you do, that elusive record deal, you know, then all of a sudden we had two record deals.
Right.
But that wasn't your question. So we made that record, and you know, our lives just went the way they went, and I got really busy as a studio musician, as a session musician, which was another one of my dreams that I had that I'm happy to say I got to, you know, I got to live it big time, you know, playing on working with a couple of really big producers and playing on a lot of hit records and stuff. And then like this guy I knew, this Swedish guy, told me, well, there's this label called Frontiers, and the owner, this guy Serafino, really loved that record, the MTV record that you made. And so that was when I think that was like 99, you know, late 90s. And that's when I somehow got in touch with him, and he wanted to do a reissue of the Geffen album, and then they wanted me to do, I did a couple other albums and called them MTV2 with other singers. And then, you know, during COVID, actually the second in command guy over there, this guy Mario, got in touch with me, and he said, hey, what would you think about reuniting with Moon and doing an MTV album with him? And the wheels got turning, and that's what started the ball rolling. And then Tom came in, and I had written all these, you know, music tracks, and Moon and Tom wrote lyrics and melodies to my music, and the stuff started coming together really easily and really fast, and we were just having fun, and a record started shaping up, and it was like, wow, we can actually do this thing.
So Tom and Moon, did you know each other prior to getting together for this particular album?
Yes, we go back 50 years this year. I came out
only
here,
known each other 50
yeah,
years.
right. I came out here from Tulsa, Oklahoma in 73 and got in a band with Tom. And I was in a band with some buddies back in Tulsa, and they got cherry picked to go play with Eric Clapton on the 461. I shot the sheriff. They went off with Eric, my homies, so I decided to come out here and met Tom, and that's where him and I started out here. So back and forth. And then I went back to Tulsa in 74 and lived at Leon Russell's house, his mansion, for a couple of years. Joined the God in the Gap band. If you know, it's an R&B band. They blew up in the late 70s, early 80s. But I came out here with the Gap Band, and then I got asked to join Chaka Khan and
As a drummer.
As a drummer, yeah, as a drummer. I was originally a drummer. And I made one record with Rufus and Chaka called Street Player, and wrote a hit song with Chaka. And then I started trying to focus more on singing after that. That eventually Mike and I got together in the mid 80s, and that's when that started to happen. But that's basically my migration out here.
So Tom, besides being related to One, what's your story in music here?
I started writing songs early on. Passion. My passion was writing songs, melodies. I'm a singer myself, so in the 80s I did some heavy metal stuff. I ended up playing on the Scorpions' Blackout record, and then in the States, when I came back from a couple of tours with opening up for Nazareth and Joe Perry, I decided to concentrate on my music more, and wrote a bunch of tunes and got a deal with EMI Capital with Bruce Lundvall. And we put out a record, Life by Night, and that did okay, but it didn't really break like, we all wanted, right? Like we're hoping this record will. And then I started, I was singing, doing all the singing for that record, and I continued writing and continued playing bass. And then Michael asked me to see if we could write together, and how could I say no with these two musicians here, artists? And me and Moon started writing to Michael's tracks, and like Michael said, they flowed really well. And we were just having fun, like he said. And really, I think the record, the songs show the fact that when Moon and I were writing, I was writing, melodies and lyrics, whatever, all I thought was about Moon singing and his style of R&B-ish with rock in it, like he had done. And I think that's kind of where the magic happened, where we were writing and
that took off.
Yeah.
Also, I've been in a wheelchair for 28 years. You know that, George, right?
I did not know that.
Okay.
Yeah, he's sitting in a wheelchair right now.
Tell him, guys.
Actually, there's a bonus song on our new album called Wheelchair.
Yeah,
that was included on the reissue of the Michael Thompson Band.
Yeah.
How Long that Frontiers released. Moon and I and this guy Jeff Paris wrote the song Wheelchair. I get choked up when every time I hear it. We weren't going to include it on this, but the Frontiers wanted to do that because they felt like a lot of people hadn't heard the song the first time around. So, yeah, he had this fucked up bicycle accident a block away from his house. And
going to the health food store.
Yeah, right.
Just
trying
to get healthy.
Right.
Yeah, thing, but it's turned in. It's had its silver linings, and it's had its fucked up, karma thing.
Yeah,
but it's
and this is a silver lining.
Absolutely,
what we have going.
Yeah.
So we're very, very happy to have done this, and we're actually, I feel fortunate to be part of this thing.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, a lot of inspiration for me getting to be in the wheelchair and have this as an avenue to pour all my stuff. I had a wife that I had been with from 81 on, and June got cancer and died.
There's a song called Forever June on the record, which is amplifies.
Tribute to my wife, which is nice. So, just my suffering it's really great to be able to have this as an outlet
and I think,
to that.
And I think lyrically,
that inspired us a lot.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say. That really helped us.
Yeah, it was an avenue for you to
really has been. Yeah. Was Tom.
it kind of, listening to your story here, it kind of puts a lot of these songs into perspective for me. I've listened to the album a couple of times, and just the title of the album, The Love Goes On, you guys had these tragic events in your life that you wrote about, but also I think you got this message of the love still being strong, either your camaraderie with each other, or you with your late wife, and just kind of love keeps going. It keeps you going. Am I onto something here?
Yeah,
you are on
absolutely.
The spirit of hope and everything through all of that is a great, I think, thread that binds this record. And my friend
without
said,
without really planning, like,
right.
Hey, this is gonna be called The Love Goes On. Let's make everything.
Yeah.
No, it's sort of like I was so encouraged after the first batch of tunes that they wrote to my music that I got on a roll, and I wrote like 4 new songs.
Right.
And for the song The Love Goes On, I knew I wanted to call it that.
Yeah.
Because way back in the first band that we had, Slang, we had a song called Love Goes On.
Oh, that's right.
It was nothing like this song. Totally different music. And the last album was called Love and Beyond, right?
Love theme.
So I thought, okay, Love and Beyond is one album. The next album, The Love Goes On. Just trying to promote that feeling,
Did you guys get a chance to kind of work on this album together? Did you do everything remotely like most bands have been doing lately?
You know what? The important part to me we did together, which was Moon's vocals.
Yeah.
And going over the phrasing and the lyrics and how they sat in the tunes. I created the music tracks by me, myself, and I in my studio, which I'm used to doing it like that. I mean, these days, I had 35 years of running around all the studios in Hollywood and around the world, actually. But, I like it's our studios are our laboratories, and I like sitting there and coming up with something and working on it till it sounds like something to me. And then I get it to them like, hey, does this inspire you guys? And it did. But then we came to Moon's studio and really put in a lot of hours, like getting because Tom and Moon wrote the scratch vocal lyric melody and sent it to me, and I loved everything they did. But there was a lot of tweaking we did with which I think a lot of people do that are making records. It's just like once you have that part of the tune up, the phrase, you have all your focus is on how can we make this the most effective.
The core.
Anyway, that's
But an interesting story was Michael was talking about The Love Goes On, that we had that track going and we were trying, and then he came up with the title, what about The Love Goes On? And I remember working on that because we do all have studios, and like in my studio, I did the basses there and some of the scratch vocals that I brought to Moon, and we worked on that. And that song, I think, magically came about, and it just flowed really nicely.
So you probably haven't seen our video.
The lyric video, I saw that.
No, our video.
We made a video,
and without slamming anyone or getting on the wrong side of anything, we had gotten the okay to make a video, which I did on the last album for Frontiers, and they just put it on their site, and it was fine,
Yeah.
And so we did the same thing with The Love Goes On, and my daughter-in-law is a videographer. We made it with her, and Tom really helped, and my son is in it, and he really helped and stuff. And we really liked.
His son is a drummer.
Well, you can see it. It's on YouTube. We put it on ourselves because in the meantime, between the last album and this album, there's now someone who's in charge of the video department of Frontiers Records, and I believe it's the owner's daughter. And so I think she just wanted to make her own video, but she's in Rome. I mean, there's no way we could have involved her in our video and stuff. So we were, I mean, to be honest, we were really miffed that they passed on us. So you know, the whole thing was like our video has a funkier kind of vibe. I mean, you can see it, but it's a little more homegrown. I like that.
Yeah.
We did it on purpose. Part of it's in black and white and stuff, and their thing was like, oh, this isn't up to the standards of Frontier's 4K, you know, videos and stuff. And you know, they have a lot of videos that they all look good and stuff, but they're, you know, most of them are metal videos with, you know,
generic
fire and dragons and, you know,
sorry,
castles.
generic.
You know,
Excuse me,
we're
George.
not that. We're not those guys, you
We're
know.
not those.
So anyway, I noticed like every day our video gets like 100 more. You know, it started at nothing. I mean, you put it on the Frontiers site, which is all I wanted them to do, is put a link to it. You know, and you instantly get 15, 20,000, you know, things. But ours, it was like 500, 600, 700.
Right.
You know, now there's like 3,000 or something. But anyway, that's not to rag on anything, but it was like, so now you have to find our video. If you put Michael Thompson Band, The Love Goes On, that lyric video will come up and our video will come up. So if you see people in the little snapshot on the thing, that's ours.
Did you guys just film the one video on your own, or do you have any others you filmed at the same time?
We only have the one so far, but we're contemplating doing another one where we possibly go into a sound stage and do like 3 tunes and you know, and sync it up to the tracks, so people have something to look at, you know.
Kind of putting out an album with Frontiers, and mind you, I've dealt with numerous Frontiers artists over the years, and I kind of get how it works. And it's not your traditional model. They're there to help you get the album out and promote it a little bit, but there's some work you guys got to put in on your own end, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And they've actually hired on a bunch of new people, like an actual promo guy and publicists. And I mean, we got an email, all these people they had added to their thing. So I think they're trying to up their record company-ness, you know, to another level, which is great. Yeah, in the past, they were never big promoters of your, you know, record. And of course, there was never any like tour support.
Right. They're growing though. They're growing.
Very small window to promote your stuff these days.
Yeah, they're kind of the only game in town too
for that area.
You know what I mean? Like Journey, Journey is on Frontiers.
Journey, John Wayne, Alan Park. A lot of hip bands are whining. Toto's been on there. I think.
Toto's most recent album was distributed by Frontiers.
Is that what it is?
But Journey, like the owner of Frontiers is on my Facebook, and I think he owns a soccer team. Because he's all, it keeps reminding me of Ted Lasso, you know. He's like, well, because he always has a soccer uniform on, and he's like got his arms around these soccer guys, and he spends his life going around with this soccer team. And I heard his family is like, you know, incredibly wealthy or something like that. And I met him once. He was in LA. Nice guy, Serafino. But yeah, so he's.
I heard a rumor they were mafia.
Really?
Maybe.
Could be. I heard, you know, Lukather said that, you know, well, he has his own problems with them. But that's why I was surprised that Toto did have Frontiers distribute their last album, because as far as the machinery of having a record company where you can have your record come out in Japan and everywhere, they've got it. And who else is there? You know, I mean, there's, you know, especially for that kind of music. I was looking on their site the other day, and it's like they've got 1 million. It's not 1 million, but they have a lot of artists. Yeah, and I think their whole sort of business plan was like, there's all these groups. Most of them are has-beens, but they still have followings. You know, God knows all the Warrant and Slaughter and, you know, all these bands from
Striper.
Striper and from so like you give these bands these small record deals where you're totally gonna do better than break even. They have their following. Could be a couple of thousand, 2,000-3,000 people. They buy the albums at $20, $25 or whatever, and you make a pretty nice thing. I think that's what their thing was, and then they start signing like, White Snake and bigger groups, and they would pay them. They would give them like 150 or 200 grand and stuff.
Yeah,
but everyone else, I mean, this is just between us and the rest of the world, But
Yeah, really.
then everyone else gets these small record deals that, with if you have your own studio, you can pull it off, but you don't really make any money at all.
Right.
So I kind of decided I want my music to get out there. That's more important than me, pocketing 10 grand or something like that. So that's why we did all this, so people can go, so they can hear our music and hopefully get joy from it and get inspired or whatever, And I guess it came out in Japan because my #1 Japanese fan put it on Facebook, a picture of her copy that she finally got. So it's out there.
Has this been your #1 Japanese fan since the first album?
Yes. It's funny, like in 95, 94, I went to Japan for the first time with this producer, David Foster. They were having a thing called a Super Producers concert. So we did 4 nights at the Budokan, then we went to Osaka and did 4 nights at the thing. And it was David and a bunch of acts, Celine Dion and stuff, people he had produced. And when I got back to my hotel after doing one of the shows, I wasn't hip to the Japanese thing of like, that there could be people waiting, that there's people that have followed your career and stuff, and they're waiting in the lobby, and they have the, like this girl Yukiko was there with like a couple of LPs and then a stack of CDs, stuff I had played on, and the Silver Magic Marker and stuff.
Yeah.
And she must have been like, oh man, she must have been like 16 or 17 or something like that. Just standing, you get back to the hotel and it's been like, sometimes it's been like hours since the end of the concert. And these people are just standing there patiently waiting for you to sign the thing. It does your heart a lot of good that there are people that care about their music that much, I mean, the Japanese fans are really, they really do care, and they stick with you through the years. I think they're interested in, I think that's why a lot of people were interested in Moon and I, teaming up again after all this time.
Are you guys going to be able to do any live performances as a result of this new album?
We sure would like to. I mean, it'd have to sort of be I don't know. A few years ago, Frontiers was having this thing called the Frontiers Fest that I actually went over and played with a band, and it was great. It was fantastic because after all these years of putting out records and sort of being a little name with that AOR crowd over in Europe and stuff, I got to actually meet these people, and they're not kids, the people that have followed the melodic rock AOR thing. But they're real passionate about the music, and it really did me good to meet these people, and like, over there you can drive from one country to another and stuff. There's this one guy, he drove all the way from the Netherlands 10 hours to hear this song Wasteland.
All right.
It's on our album.
Right.
And good cat, smart guy, just loved his music and loved that song. There was another guy from Greece that drove from Greece, and so it was like, it was kind of like a rock and roll fantasy to me, totally like a Twilight Zone thing, because like, the curtain comes up and this crowd is chanting MTV. And so I tell people I got to be a rock star. I mean, truly be a rock star for one night, for one set. To feel that feeling is,
And I wasn't there, but I would love to have the opportunity to roll out there in my trusty wheelchair.
Yeah.
And throw down.
So maybe something like that, if that happened again, if they started doing
That'd be
that
great.
again, we could make it happen.
Yeah.
But it was fun to actually see the faces and, meet some of the people, and it's a very, you know, it's a small niche, but it's a very, you know, strong niche as far as like their love of the music and stuff.
So whereas you can't take the show on the road, do you continue writing for the next one?
Yeah,
Oh, for sure.
we already got
We're already
one
on
too.
one. Got one going on
Yeah.
already.
And that's something we all would very much like to do is do another album.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Keep the flow going.
That's really where we're mainly live. I'd say that's where we're going to be living.
Yeah,
making the music, recording it, and having it come out that way. If we get the chance to perform it, that'd be an extra bonus.
yeah.
I
But
think
this is where we live, right, guys?
Yeah, I
Go
think
for it.
I think it would be nice, like Michael was saying, to get together on a sound stage and do, you know, 3 songs, like Mike was saying.
And film it.
We have, you've heard the record, and we have a couple of songs that we really are passionate about. One is called Whispers and Dreams, and then the other one's called War of the Hearts, that we feel are very strong, and we would like for our audience out there to hear them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely do that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
So
gotta
I
make
think that
happen.
might be maybe the beginning of perhaps us doing something live.
Right. That would be nice if that happens.
Are you guys also studio musicians as well, in addition to being a part of this band together?
Those guys
Well,
are
Michael is like
Well,
top of that.
I'm
both of you guys.
yeah. I mean,
No.
Tom's gotten to
A little
like you
bit.
said, for a songwriter band guy, he's gotten to play on some records. The biggest being that big Scorpions album that he played bass on all the tunes. But my thing was like in high school. Of course, I was going. You know, I went to Woodstock. If you can believe that. I was 15 years old. I grew up in New York. You know, Long Island.
Wow.
I mean, I'm in LA, and when
Right.
you tell people in LA, I was at Woodstock, it's like, you were at Woodstock?
Right.
You
But
were
if-
Woodstock.
But if we
Yeah,
were,
right.
Oh,
if
man.
we were in New York, there's a pretty good chance someone your age,
Yeah.
they were there too.
Yeah, right.
It was 500,000
Yeah.
people there, you know.
Unbelievable.
But anyway, you know, like I was saying before, my dream was to be a rock star. But it was also, once I started listening to the records and noticing that studio musicians were on these different records, I started buying records just because so-and-so played on it and stuff. And so then I also got a chance to record very early on. We had a manager in this band I was in when I was a teenager who worked for RCA, who got us time in their big studio in New York City, like the real thing, right?
Wow.
And I just love the whole idea of recording. Whereas it's a lot of band guys, you know, the red light goes on and it kind of like they aren't that comfortable with it and stuff. But I just love the thing of recording. So all that to say, I had the dream too, actually maybe more so than being a rock star. I had the dream of coming to LA and being a session guy, a guy that gets to play on the records and stuff. And
Which you did.
Big time.
after like taking pretty much the 80s to break in, I did get to enjoy like a nice run of, I mean, when I hooked up with David Foster in 1990, the first song I played on with him was Celine Dion, The Power of Love.
Yeah, man.
And it was #1 for 11 weeks. And from
Amazing.
there on, it was just every other week I was going up to his house in Malibu and playing on a tune. And a month later, you'd hear it on the radio, and a lot of them became #1 hits. I have this video that my daughter-in-law made of kind of like the hits that I played on and stuff.
So cool.
I even get impressed by it. It's like, did I
Yeah.
really do that? But you know,
Yeah,
that's what
I
I
happens.
saw that. That's
Amazing.
Well,
super
that's
cool.
what happens when you become the guy for a very busy, successful
Yeah.
producer.
That's
It's
it.
like they're getting what they want from you,
Mhm.
so they're not going to go to that guy and that guy and that guy.
Stick with you.
And so through working with David Foster, then Babyface started hearing my stuff, and
Right.
he wanted me to play on his records. So for 5 or 6 years, I played on all his stuff. And then MUTT LANG, who
Killer.
no one ever gets to meet or do anything with,
Right.
was also hearing me on David Foster Records. And, you know, I'll never forget the time I came home and put on the answering machine and, hi, Michael, this is Mutt Lang. I wonder if you'd be interested in working on my wife's album with me. Like, what? You know, somewhere in my house, that was back when the answering machines had the little cassette player.
Yeah.
Somewhere in my house, is that
still got it?
Yeah, the little cassette, you know. And so I went and spent 18 days working with my hero, you know, Mutt Lang, who not very many people get to even see him, much less work with him. And he was just a great, gentlemanly, nice guy, talked about everything in the world. He wasn't like a weird reclusive guy. He just doesn't like to have his picture taken. He's that guy, you know. But we had some great discussions. He loves talking and stuff. And
you like the pretty shit.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
No. He said after
What was that?
Well, you know, the stuff
rocker guys.
Well, when I'm playing on tunes, I'm always looking for the beauty. And trying to play a pretty part, especially when it's a chick singer, right?
Of course.
Shania Twain. And so I played all this stuff and all these days and stuff. And he said, so you basically just play pretty shit, right?
Play pretty shit.
I went, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I'm that guy.
But no, it was an incredible experience for me. And you know, and the other really cool thing about that story is this first studio we were working in Italy. There was a couch right behind me, and he'd be sitting on it, and he had one of my guitars, and he'd be playing a little part, and I'm going, okay, that's probably going to be my next part he wants me to play, right? It's cool and stuff, but he'd call someone, and you hear him chatting with someone, and you think, I wonder who he's talking to or something like that. And so, like, the last day, he's on the couch, and I hear him going, yeah, he's really as good as he said he was, and he's made my demos sound like records. And, you know, I knew he was talking about me.
Really awesome.
And I'm like, man, I wonder who he's talking to.
Right.
And so he got off the phone and he said, oh, that was Brian Adams. He was actually the one that recommended you.
Oh, that's
and I'm like,
wow.
oh my God, now I can die. And, you know, because Brian Adams was like, you know, and I had done one session with Brian, with David Foster, a duet he did with Barbra Streisand. Called I Finally Found Someone, right?
Yeah.
And I remember him getting out his, I don't think they even had iPads then, but he got out his phone. He said, I got to get your number. Mutt would love you, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so like her next album, which I think was Come On Up, came and went. And I didn't get the Mutt call, you know? Right. I'm like, that's cool that he took my number, but I'll probably never get called by Mutt. 6 years went by,
God.
And I get that call. So that's my Mutt Lang story.
I love it.
Not that many people have Mutt Lang stories.
That's right. That's special.
I got back.
You and Def Leppard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In the Cars, Heartbeat City.
I got back and Richard Marx called me up and he said, I need Mutt stories.
Yeah, right.
Now, I didn't check the Frontier shop to confirm this at all, but is The Love Goes On available on vinyl with the whole resurgence of vinyl coming?
They designed the artwork for vinyl, so I know they semi have a plan to release it. I don't know what their deal is, whether they release the CD and see how it sells and then put out the vinyl. I kind of hoped it was coming out together. And so did a bunch of other people that were looking forward to that. So we all put in our orders for like, send me 3 vinyl records and stuff. And like, well, at this time we're not pressing it up. So I don't know. I hope they do. That would be cool.
That would be great.
But they had the whole double album artwork and everything that they sent us to get approved and stuff. But
so that's determined by possibly.
I don't know. I didn't ask what determines the. I know they're getting into the vinyl thing, and I think if it does well at all, or maybe 6 months later they put it out.
Vinyl outsold CDs last year, George. Right? Did you hear about?
I think that with Frontiers, they're gapping them 6 months apart because I think there's only so many vinyl plants right now, and everybody's trying to catch up.
Yeah, that's a good thought, George.
If you guys got a little more time, I'd like to ask you about the first album that you did together back in 1989. How long it's considered a legendary album in the AOR melodic rock scene, and it's coming up on its 35th anniversary.
Great thought.
Man,
God,
it's so funny how, like, you know, like I said, we weren't even aware. We just did it. And I got to say, all due respect to our manager that we had, because we wouldn't have gotten the deal that we got without him. It was one of those double-edged swords. It was like we were recording our demos at the same studio that he had a band called Great White that he managed.
Well,
And they were just another, you know, nobody's band. The studio's called Total Access in Redondo Beach. And they were cutting their demos down there, and we were cutting our demos down there. And Alan, you know, Dokken did a couple of his albums there and stuff. It was a pretty busy little hub.
yeah.
But Alan, through working down at that studio, was aware of our demos and really liked our tunes and stuff. So that was the good news. You know, this guy loves your music. You know, he'd taken me out to lunch a couple of times, and he was a real gentlemanly English cat, you know, and so his wife was Tom Zutat's secretary at Geffen. Tom Zutat is the guy who signed Guns N' Roses.
Right.
And so when he signed Guns N' Roses, they had some woman managing them who was the first one to go.
Mm-hmm.
She was like a Sunset Boulevard booker manager kind of thing. She was like out of there. And so, you know, Guns N' Roses, they had no say in it. It's just Tom Zutat made Alan Niven their manager. So all of a sudden, he was Guns N' Roses manager, and they were the biggest thing in the world.
Right.
And so that just helped us. But the downside of that was Alan, you know, he got us the record deal, but he wanted to produce it. And, you know, he wouldn't get bad ideas and stuff, but he thought he was Mutt Lange or something.
Yeah.
And he wasn't. And he also framed it in a way of, like, you know, threatening to, like, for instance, we wrote a tune called Fade into Black.
Oh, yeah.
And we were like really jazzed about the tune,
Yeah.
and we really liked the title. That was one of the coolest
we
things
liked
about it, right?
Yeah.
And so we make a little demo and bring it into the session, and he goes, "We shan't release this song as is. Far too negative." I'm like, shit, right?
Yeah, right.
He said, "Give me a minute. I'll get it, right?" So he like leaves the room, and he comes back in.
I've got it.
And he goes, "I've got it. Baby, come back."
Baby, come back.
Where have I heard that before? You know, it wasn't a very big song, right? So he took Fade into Black, turned it into Baby Come Back. And so there was a bunch of stuff like that where he changed lyrics to songs, and he just wanted to be like involved with every aspect, but instead of like being a fifth of it or whatever, he kind of had the iron-fisted thing, like, this whole thing's going to go away.
If you don't do it.
Like if we didn't call it Baby Come Back, the whole deal was going to go away.
He kind of forced us into it.
You know, I don't want to talk bad about it, because I said, we wouldn't have gotten that deal.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be having this interview right now if it wasn't for Alan.
No, totally for Alan. Yeah.
And he did get good ideas.
He did.
But one of his ideas was really wacky. We had our single was the song "Give Love a Chance,"
right?
That our friend Jeff Paris wrote,
and it
was like a foreigner kind of thing.
Ballad.
And it was Alan's idea to have a 4-minute guitar solo at the end of it.
Yeah, right.
Because Gary Moore had done this.
Oh, that's right.
Asian walkways.
Yeah. That's where
everyone
that
loves
came
it, and I love Gary Moore.
Right, of course.
And so that was Alan's idea, production idea. But I tell you, I like doing guitar solos, but it's rough to like 4 minutes. To make it interesting for 4 minutes. And I remember I did the first, version and punched in and stuff, and he's like, "This isn't doing anything for me." It was weird because you end up learning from those things, and so I ended up redoing the whole thing. and it did have more passion, and it did have more of a thing.
Yeah,
but
right.
I would have in no way ever done a solo that long. So it's
Never.
like there's the song,
That was all
and then
him.
the out
Yeah,
is longer than the song.
right.
But anyway, that's another video that is now on YouTube. The video for
Right.
"Give Love a Chance,"
Right.
which
Sorry,
was
guys. Yeah, go ahead.
which was done by
Uh-huh.
this guy Nigel Dick, who
Oh, yeah.
did all of Guns N' Roses
Uh-huh.
videos.
Yeah,
And it was a pro video. It must have cost $100,000
Oh,
or
yeah.
something like that.
definitely.
But everyone at Geffen
Is that the one where
supposedly
you have your hair?
yeah, Poodle
Yeah, that's a
Boy.
whole nother story.
Oh,
Go
man.
ahead.
Everyone at Geffen,
That's funny.
we didn't know this because Moon and I were kept from even going to the label, but they didn't like our manager's style either, because he would just walk in there and go, "I want this, this, this."
He
and
was
this.
pompous.
I mean, he was
a
Guns N'
pompous-
Roses
yeah,
manager.
he was
He was a pompous.
kind of
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. And so we're telling you stuff we've never told.
No, of
you.
course, but
Well,
It's
our
all good
friends
now.
and stuff, but
yeah,
so anyway, it was a double-edged sword. So after the album, Moon and I just kind of looked at each other and said, we don't want to work. We don't want to do this again with
no,
him.
no.
And we enjoyed doing the tunes, and the music had a lot of passion and life to it. But the idea of being produced by, like, in that style, because Great White were like his kids.
Yeah, right.
He'd just tell them what to do, and he wrote all the lyrics, you know, "Baby, baby, let me rock your socks off all night long." I mean,
Yeah,
it's
right.
that kind of.
Really? I didn't know that.
He wrote the lyrics.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, with
Of
Jack
course,
or whatever, I don't know.
Alan
But
was really impressed
and
with himself.
so
Yeah.
he thought he would treat us
I
the
love
same
you,
way.
Alan.
You know, and
yeah,
like,
right.
I love you, Alan.
because
Anyway.
it was actually just Moon and I at
Yeah,
that point.
right.
We had a working band, but sorry, Alan, the drummer and bass player hated Alan, so
So they just
they
didn't
quit
even
the
want
band.
anything to do with
But
it.
Moon and I hung in there, and it's
We
like,
did.
okay, you got a deal for us, man.
Exactly.
It's like, okay.
That's funny.
So that's the kind of stuff you run into in this business
Yeah.
all night long, you know.
That's
So I think that's interesting because a lot of people hold this album in high regard, but what you're telling me is it's not really the album you wanted to make.
The music is, although it's funny, like, you know, for 4 or 5 years we had been trying to get a record and writing different tunes and cutting different demos. But then when it came time to, like, we actually had a deal, we didn't have enough tunes. I think we had like 8 songs and we needed 11, or, you know. So I actually at that point had been working with a couple of, you know, hit songwriters and
Spyro.
yeah, this one guy named Mark Spyro. I had been playing on his tunes, and I thought, wow, this guy's a good songwriter. And he became a guy that was like co-writing with, you know, Bad English and you know, Mike Reno from Loverboy
Yeah.
and
was in there.
John Waite and during that period. And so
Yeah.
he was like this really good guy to write a melodic rock song with. And so he and I wrote the song "Can't Miss," which was our little,
And Wasteland.
yeah, and Wasteland. And so the tunes came together, and
Yeah.
then, like, you know, Moon and I wrote that song "Fade into Black," that
Right.
became "Baby Come Back," and so
Yeah, right.
the batch of tunes on the record that we weren't looking at, like, wow, these, you know, melodic rock
Yeah.
fans in Europe are gonna, like, really hold these tunes up to. We were just glad we had enough songs,
Yeah.
but I liked the songs, man.
Yeah.
And through the years, I liked our performances, and, you know, we were into stepping up and trying to. I mean, Moon's, like, standard was Steve Perry, who's a friend of Moon's, but, like, his standard for how good his vocal had to be was Steve Perry.
Yeah, I was aspiring to kind of that thing.
Oh,
Trying
you were,
to- yeah,
definitely.
I was. Not that I
I mean,
sound like him.
And
at all.
one of the songs has, I don't know if you know music, but it has like a high C in it, you know.
can't miss. It's a
Well,
clincher.
and it was
Yeah.
like he had to hit that full voice or he wasn't going to be happy. you
Yeah,
know?
right. We did it though. We climbed the mountain. The record, yeah, we felt good about the record.
We did
for sure.
it was I don't want to give the impression
Not
that
at
it was
all.
like that. It was
Okay.
just some of the
Yeah,
stuff that went along with it, the Alan producing.
Yeah,
Do you own the rights to the record at this juncture?
that was the other cool thing Alan did was when we got involved with, I don't know what came first. Alan got our record back from Geffen. He
Yes.
gave it totally with no strings, right?
Yeah,
He gave it to us pretty much.
Yeah.
He didn't ask for really anything.
and he did
of
it for you.
And because I think I'd been injured, that was kind of
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
behind that.
Yeah,
That was a cool thing
That's
he did.
awesome.
That was
So,
really awesome.
That's hard to do.
That was Alan really at his
yeah,
best.
and it had been over 10 years,
Right.
since it came out. And so Geffen released the album. That's why Frontiers was able to take it as is. And we
Yeah.
added, we had like 2 songs that were in the can that we didn't put on that first album. Can't Let Go and
Can't Let Go, and
uh,
Right to Be Wrong. I
Right to Be
think.
Wrong.
And
So
then
we-
wrote Wheelchair.
and then
and
we
then
wrote
added
that
Wheelchair.
new song,
Wheelchair
Wheelchair. So
song,
the
yeah, and
new
added
release
Yeah,
had 3 new songs.
Right.
But
and that's when we got with Frontier
yeah,
right then.
yeah.
So it was great.
Both
Well,
versions
Yeah.
of the album are out of print. So is there any plans to put it back out again?
Wow, I
Didn't
didn't
know
know
that.
that. I didn't
Yeah.
know
That's
that.
news to us, George.
Oh, it's certainly not streaming. I can tell you that, number one, unless you go on YouTube and somebody's burned it there. But I really don't think it's anywhere for purchase either.
Out of print. You mean you can't go to Frontier Music and order it and buy it from them? Is that
Oh, that's interesting. I thought.
Or any kind of.
that's
place like-
interesting?
Yeah,
It
Yeah,
might
look-
have cycled
Yeah.
out. It might have cycled out, but I'm not able to get my hands on it right now.
Really?
wow.
Gonna look into
Definitely.
that.
gotta check it out.
Especially
Yeah.
with this new album being
Right.
out, people should be able to go
Should
and
be able to
sample.
get both.
Yeah,
Yeah, we should look into that, George.
email
Yeah,
Mario.
let's find out about that.
Mario Rizzo.
Thank
Don't-
you for that
Don't
out.
take my info as 100% gospel, but
People should look into it.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And if we wake up with a horse's head on our bed,
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't say that. I didn't
Right.
say
You didn't say that.
Well, those are all the questions I have for you today, guys. The new album is The Love Goes On. It's out now. Frontiers Music, great album. You guys should be very proud of it.
Very much.
Thank you so much.
You're a great guy, man. It was fun doing this with you.
And I appreciate the stories and learning more
Yeah.
about this album, the old album, and kind of your camaraderie together.
Thank
Yeah.
you, man. Awesome.
Who else can we slam?
Yeah, right.
No, I'm just
No, you're great, man.
All right, guys, I wish you the best of luck, and I'll see you again soon, I'm sure.
Keep on rocking,
Thank you,
brother.
George.
Once again, I want to thank Michael Thompson, Tom Croucier, and Moon Calhoun of the Michael Thompson Band for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out their latest album, The Love Goes On, available now. Head over to your favorite music streaming app. Check out the album. If you like what you hear, buy a physical copy. Support the artist. For all things Michael Thompson Band, head over to their official Facebook page /Michael Thompson Band. I also want to thank Dustin Hardman of Hardman Promotions and Frontiers Music for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. Discover your next favorite artist on the Rock is George podcast.